28th conference comes as the world grapples with the repercussions of the hottest year ever recorded in human history and the escalating climate crisis affecting lives globally. Esther Mopariola has details in this report.
This conference is happening in a year that has been described as the hottest on record, and climate issues are causing negative impacts for people all over the world. The global stocktake concluding at this year's COP highlights that current efforts are insufficient to limit the rise in temperatures to 1.5 degrees by the end of the century. A special report from the United Nations Climate Change Group indicates that national climate action plans, known as the nationally determined contributions, fall far short of the needed reductions in greenhouse gas emissions.
We know, as you know, the gravity of this moment. We feel, as you feel, the urgency of this work. And we see, as you see, that the world has reached a crossroads. And yes, since Paris, we have made some progress. But we also know that the road we have been on will not get us to our destination in time.
According to the United Nations, replenishing the Green Climate Fund, doubling financial resources for adaptation, and operationalizing the Loss and Damage Fund are key to keeping the 1.5 degrees within reach while leaving no one behind.
We're standing at a precipice, facing the global stocktake. And we've got two options. Either we can note the lack of progress, tweaking our current best practices, and encourage ourselves to do more at some other point in time.
I'm being joined on the news by environment activist Desmond Maja-Kodumi to discuss COP28 conference. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. Well, COP28 is on, and the UN has warned that 2023 is said to be the warmest on Earth. What is the import of that, especially for us as Nigeria?
The import of that is that exactly what the scientists were telling us over 30 years, that if we continue pouring millions and millions of tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, we're going to cause climate change. And we're already feeling the effects of this climate change now, with ocean erosion, with very, very unsteady weather patterns. You know, our crop systems are very much rain-fed. Seasonal cropping is what we do. Not to mention the massive desertification that we're having to fight. It is a crisis brewing. And as the Secretary General of the United Nations has said, mankind is waging war against nature, and this is suicidal because nature always fights back. And that's exactly what's happening. So the implications of going further are very, very severe, very drastic. And I'm just so glad that Nigeria is being very well represented.
Absolutely. And what are your expectations as Nigeria participates in this conference?
Well, the most significant thing that happened was that no sooner had our president arrived there than he met with King Charles. And believe you me, there's a lot of heads of state that would have been in the waiting line. So our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was one of the first heads of states to meet with King Charles. And King Charles, as you rightly said in this news item, King Charles is a very, very passionate advocate for the environment. He has been promoting this for decades and decades and decades. He understands the implications of not living in harmony with nature. He understands what can happen to us if we continue polluting the atmosphere, polluting the seas, polluting the everywhere, even the ground we're polluting. So yeah, very, very encouraging. And I think we're going to see something very dramatic and very positive happening. And I trust our Mr. President, he will ensure that the right type of support is coming, because there's a lot of money that is meant to come to countries like Nigeria, in Africa particularly, and other island states. There's a lot of money to come to us. But unfortunately,
All right, Desmond Majakodumi is speaking about the COP28 and, of course, Nigeria's participation. He was making the points there about President Bola Tinubu meeting with King Charles III. All right, Mr. Majakodumi, you were talking about the fact that a lot of money is coming in and should actually come to Nigeria. But how much of what has been promised by world leaders is actually coming out? Initially, they made a promise of $100 billion annually to localized initiatives to promote climate resilient societies. But how much of commitment are they actually putting there?
Yes, exactly. A lot of money, but very little of it has come. And this is very, very disappointing because after all, we were not the major causes of the problem. Most of this pollution has come from the industrialized countries. But we're seeing a change of attitude. And for King Charles to make sure that he meets up with our own president so soon in the conference is an indication that the necessary levers will be pushed, the necessary buttons shall be pressed for us to get that money, because we need it and we need to come together. Once we can come together as African nations, then I'm very, very sure that these funds will come, and they will come just in time, because we need to adapt. There's problems, as I mentioned earlier, going on our coastline. Terrible, terrible erosion all the way down because the seas are more energetic. There's more heat in the oceans. And as a result of that also, there's a lot more evaporation. That's going to bring a lot more rain. So we're prone to far heavier rains, which will bring flooding. So the money must come, and I'm confident. This meeting with King Charles was very, very symbolic, very significant indeed.
All right, then. I appreciate you for talking to us. Desmond Majakodumi is an environment activist. Thanks a whole lot.
My pleasure.
Away from COP28, we move